Welcome to the Hard Rapp Cafe. I'm your host, Rocky Dennis. On this week's episode, co-hosted by Smoke God, I'll be interviewing the legendary DJ and producer, Dr. Butcher, as we discuss coming up in Queens, New York with Kool G Rap and DJ Polo in neighborhoods riddled with mafia crime families and how that lifestyle would eventually mold the sound of Kool G's solo mafioso persona as we travel back in time to hip-hop's golden years with unbelievable stories and performances and projects that would change the course of our culture forever. So tune in as we tap in with Dr. Butcher. Here we go, my man, Dr. Butcher. Welcome to Hard Rapp Cafe, man. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, family. How are you? Thank you for inviting me.
Peace to the Butcher.
Man, we good,
God,
man.
what's going on, brother?
Yeah, we good, man. Thank you for joining us. So let's get a little background on you, man. For those people that might not know, where you from? Where did you come up at?
I grew up in Corona, Queens, but I lived in Brooklyn. Then we migrated out to Queens. My mother had her mom, the family out there. So I was, most of my time was spent in Corona, Queens, with had a lot of family there, and I was probably maybe 4 or 5 years old, at the time, and we stayed there for a while.
So what was Queens like in that time, man? What you remember?
Raw. So that's where Malcolm X's house blew up. That's that side of town, and during that era, and Louis Armstrong. Yeah, there were lots of celebrities that lived there. Keith David is from there. So, but at the time, Corona, Queens was raw, like Brooklyn. So I have a lot of family in Brooklyn and a lot of family in Queens. So yeah, it was kind of crazy. We see all types of stuff happening: shootings, cats running through the streets with shotguns. It's wild because it's the dynamic of the neighborhood is half one block. You cross one street, it's all Latino, various types of Latinos. Then there's the black. Then you have Italians, John Gotti and all of them from that side of town. Jackson Heights, East Elmhurst. So it's Flushing, Queens, So and the World's Fair, Shea Stadium, all that is right there. So it's an odd dynamic, but generally you don't have. I've never really had problems per se. You know what I'm saying? But it's a very cultural area to be in. And then when hip hop came around, it really got kind of crazy.
Yeah, a lot of music history coming out of Queens, man.
Yeah, the Bridge, the Woodhaven, all of the Astoria projects, all of that. We're like one big area. So,
how close are y'all to Hollis?
Hollis is the other side of Queens. So I kind of went to school in that area. Yeah, so that's how I met LL Cool J and various cats on that side of town. I had no knowledge of Hollis or Laurelton. I had an uncle who lived in the south side of Jamaica, but I didn't really know too much about that area until I went to high school out there. Then, when people found out I could rap, cats started coming in to battle me. So then I started getting more familiar with the area.
What high school did you attend out there, Dr. Butcher?
August Mountain High School. Russell Simmons graduated from there too.
Oh, man.
It's an aeronautics school for aeronautics.
So when did you get bit by the music bug, man?
From the time it started. Day one, bro. Day one. I was breaking my dad's needles. Day one. So it was interesting for me because my mom worked at a vinyl factory, where they pressed up the records and stuff at the time. And I had some DJs above me called the Earthquakes. And I would sneak up there and I'd hear playing stuff. And what's the name of that? They would write the names down and I would give it to my mother. And the factory had it. She would bring me all these records home. So then I'd get on my dad's little turntable and play the records. But, from time to time, I tried to do some scratching and break his needles. But yeah, I loved it from day one, bro, because I was just surrounded by it everywhere I went. You had DJs everywhere. You couldn't get away from it.
That's dope, man. And what were the artists that, was popping at this time? Or was it, anyone in particular?
So oddly, if you know the record Raptivity with a cat Ronnie G, a lot of cats sampled it. Surgeon General, Chilltown, New York, has determined that the sounds you're about to hear will be devastating to your ear.
Right.
I went to school with his little brother. Ronnie G was down. Yeah, Ronnie G was down with DJ Polo, and a crew called the Spin Masters, and the lead Ronnie G and another cat named Jap 10 were the two lead main rappers, and Jap 10's little brother was my best friend. So I would spend a lot of time in his house. He lived across the street from me. And we get busy in the backyard, doing anything outside and stuff. And when they were finished, bring all the music inside and put it in his living room. He and I would go downstairs and hook everything back up and start playing around with stuff. But they never got mad at us. Polo, he was so cool with me. I was like his little brother. He never got mad at us. And we would just stay up all night trying to learn what to do and stuff. It was kind of crazy.
That's dope, man. Mm-hmm. So you eventually, we know you got into production, but you said you started off MCing?
Yes. Because I always had when hip hop started, the DJ was the main guy. So I always had a taste to become a DJ. Like I would study DJs like nothing. And the cast that I was around was pretty good. Like I tell you, the guys upstairs from me, Earthquake, there was it was a bunch of brothers, but one of them was Greg. He was super nice. Like he was way ahead of his time. Just very perfect with everything he did. And I would just study him and Disco Twins, the legendary cats from my neighborhood. If and when I got a chance to see them, the parks were so crazy. My mom didn't let me go out there too often. But when I got to see them cats, they were putting on the show, getting on each other's shoulders and things like that. So it was pretty crazy. And then we had a few, Rockwell, Proof, Flash, Master Finesse. We had the Super Lovers with DJ Quicksilver. Also, that's the camp that Kid and Play came from.
Yeah.
So so those are pretty nice. Ron Lawrence, all of them are from that same camp. Yeah.
Ahmed Ra, who a lot of people don't know, he was part of the later on in the 90s, he would become one of the most pivotal producers with him and the Mad Rapper, aka D-Dot. Yeah. Well, first they were part of a group called Two Kings and a Cypher.
Yes, correct.
And then they became part of it.
I think they started that.
Yeah, and then they became part of the Hit Squad that produced a lot of Bad Boy, Biggie's, Craig Mack.
Yep. So there was also a cat behind the scenes, and I forget his name. I met him a couple of times. He worked out of Herbie Lovebug's garage. This dude produced 50% of the hits on Bad Boy, but he didn't want to be known. Like he did the Benjamins and everything. So, and I think he probably worked with Ron Lawrence as well. But he was just sitting there, put the beats together, ship them out to Puff would send him a check. And he just kept it going. He didn't want to be around the scene or anything. He just locked himself in that garage and would just crank out the tracks.
That might have been the best thing for him.
In hindsight, right? In hindsight, he did the right thing. Guys were like, you're making hit records. Like, your records are going gold and platinum and you're not getting no royalties. He's like, I'm good. That was his mindset. I'm good. I was like, I hear you, bro. I don't have nothing to say about that. You know what you're doing. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Hey,
man.
I got a question I want to ask you. Being from Queens, and coming up in the 80s and having the love for hip hop, what were you feeling and what was it like in Queens at the time when MC Shan came out with The Bridge, then the beef started with BDP and they came with The Bridge Is Over? What was that like in Queens back in the 80s when that was going on? How did you feel?
So MC Shan used to come up to August Martin every day because his girlfriend went to my school as well. So he would be up there to pick her up. And I was in the crew with LL Cool J. So I would approach him to talk to him. Me and him got to be real cool. And this is before the Juice Crew even set off when he had that record. I didn't feel any type of way about it. I liked KRS-One at the time. I felt like he was dope. He was different. I actually felt like he was more lyrical than Shan. I didn't think that was a battle Shan wanted to play around with. But he was specifically talking about Queensbridge. It didn't really pertain to Corona. And later on, when we started recording with G-Rap, they used the same studio. We would be in Power Play Studio, Studio Room C, which was his own environment. And KRS liked to record in the daytime. We recorded at nighttime. So we would always pass each other with sessions. As they're leaving, we're coming in. And I remember in one instance, G-Rap asked him, because there were little subliminals being put in the records, and we didn't know if he was going to G-Rap and Polo. So G approached him, and he was just like, nah, man, we cool beans, man. If I had something to say, I would, talk to you directly. I ain't got no beef with you. So it was left there. Like, you know, G-Rap never talked about going at him, you know, outside of that. You know, once they shook hands on that, it was done. You know, like whatever was going on with Stan, that was just Stan and them, you know. But Queens, you know, I think people underestimated Queens a lot. You know, the rappers, but there was some ill dudes out there, you know, like even the Super Lovers. They went out to Harlem. I'm real good friends with Tito from the Fearless Four. And so they went to the Disco Fever. They were having, like, when the Fat Boys got discovered, they were hosting competitions. And so the Super Lovers, Quicksilver and the Super Lovers, they went out there. And Tito was like, yo, bro, them dudes tore that place down. He said, yo, we went awed. We didn't know Queens was like that. And then Mo D started going to school in Long Island, college in Long Island. And he talked about how he would venture out to Queens to the park jams just to feel the temperament. And he said the same thing. Tito was like, yeah, that dude came back and was like, yo, them cats out there get busy, man. Like, don't sleep. So I think they felt that way about Brooklyn and Queens. You know, we were kind of on the outskirts with Harlem and Manhattan and the Bronx. We're being promoted more, you know, for the known rappers and stuff. But Brooklyn was just as raw. You know what I'm saying? I spent every weekend I was in Brooklyn and Bedford-Stuyvesant, Roosevelt Projects. So I knew what was going on there with Master D and a bunch of other cats in the neighborhood, you know. So it was interesting. It was an interesting dynamic, but it didn't impact the rest of Queens. People out in Jamaica could care less about what KRS was saying about Queensbridge. Like, they could care less. Half of them probably didn't know what Queensbridge was. So, you know, Captain sat aside watching it, you know, just feeling it out.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that about Queens. I thought everybody in Queens hated the Bridges Over and BDP for that.
Nah, I was. A lot of people liked it. You know, people love the record. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, love and hate. You know, it was the thing where Shan had to come back and respond to it. You know, that was his beef. So he was getting challenged. Then whether he stepped up or not, that was going to be on him, because, you know, other dudes who were ready to go at KRS, they, you know, the real dudes that could get busy would went at him. They could care less. So I don't think it had a real impact.
Coming up in this incredible era, man, that you were a part of, you know what I mean, 80s, you know, Queens, New York, and all this hip hop stuff. How accurate were these cultural movies like Wild Style, Beat Street, Crush Groove, and things of that nature?
Wild Style is the most accurate. Yeah, I would say Wild, because they use actual artists who did stuff. You know, it was like a raw film. You know, no one knew what they were doing. So they got actual performances and things. So I'm going to put Wild Style at the top. Everything else, man, was cool. Good. Crush Groove was cool because they had one of them in there. But, you know, they got to stage stuff to make it look like it's so easy, and it just kind of happens overnight, and that's never the case. We all know that. But everything else seemed kind of corny. I love B Street, but there was a lot of parts were just a little over the top. You know what I'm saying? I don't recall anything happening to that nature. I've been in similar situations, but yeah, you know, I saw some of it just felt kind of buffoonery. But, you know, Harry Belafonte did a great job at trying to put it together to promote the culture. So from that aspect, you know, I respect and love it all.
So Wild Style, you say, was the closest to the real deal?
For the Bronx, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
MC Shan was part of a legendary super group called the Juice Crew.
Yes.
And they came out with a record in the late 80s called The Symphony.
Yes.
With Master Ace, Kool G Rap, Big Daddy Kane, Craig G. What was it like in Queens when that record hit? That set the tone for Posse records, probably even to this day.
Right. That was crazy, man, because G-Rap spanked everybody's butt. You know, I think, you know, he was adamant. I mean, you know, he and I were like the best two rappers in the neighborhood. So, you know, we would always talk about battling this legend and that legend and going at cats all day, you know. Everybody had that battle mentality, and that's what I'm saying. KRS was going at the right person, because the right people would have tore him a shreds. You know, like he would have got destroyed contrary to his thoughts. But G was ready to battle that dude had rhymes for everybody. Kumo D, anybody who was considered the big dogs at the time, he was ready to go, because he wanted to make his bones. He wanted to be seen. So when they did that, you know, he was like, yo, every shot I get, I'm going to do my best and try to show out. And that's what he did. You know, he was ready for it. Just like the record with him and Kane. They did that on Raw when Kane was working on Raw, and they did that little back and forth thing together. he had something ready, you know, and Kane got busy on there, you know, and G was just on some next level stuff when he came right behind him. So, but they were boys. Them two dudes, you know, challenged each other. You know, he had the utmost respect for Big Daddy Kane. So it was dope though. You know, everybody loved it. Everybody loved all parts. But, you know, to just hear G-Rap perform the way he did in the neighborhood, it was a big thing for us.
Man, incredible, man. Do you have any records that you are rhyming on with G-Rap? I know production-wise, yeah, but as far as MCing, did y'all do anything in the early days?
So there's like some comical stuff on Wanted Dead or Alive. There's a track called Jive Talk, and at the very end of the record, I come on and start rapping, and then the song, I get a couple of bars in, but then the song fades off. But we were just in the studio bugging out, me and him and Large Professor. Large Professor's on the floor banging the floor with drumsticks. But the odd thing from that, after it got released, G had Biz and a few other people telling him, asking who was that rapping, if they wanted to sign me. And I didn't think nothing of it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, LL was always calling labels, you know, wanting to get me on. And then Eric B was looking for a new rapper too. Not that anything was going on with him or Rakim. He was in a position to sign people, and he was looking for someone. And G-Rap, everybody, you know, he was touring with LL, so my circle was around him a lot, and it was like, yo, you got to see Butcher, like he's nice. But I was watching the scene. I wasn't really too impressed. I was seeing some things I didn't like because I didn't drink or smoke or do anything, and I was seeing a lot of drugs and a lot of things flying around that I just didn't really want to be involved. So I kind of stood back and then started pursuing the the turntable aspect of hip hop a little more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's dope, man. So you got into DJing, you know what I mean, what was that like? I mean, do you remember like that first feeling when you rocked that first jam?
I had always been into DJing. I came up under the real Cut Creator, not Cool J. The Cut Creator with Cool J was like his road manager. So when Cool J was down with us, he would come out to Corona and we'd go to the real Cut Creator's house. The real Cut Creator was crazy. He was like the original turntablist. He was real crazy. He, you know, a smart guy. You know, he went to Brooklyn Tech. He was so smart. He was one of the guys that people would pay to take their state exams and stuff, you know, at Brooklyn Tech. You know, so, and you know how hard it is to get in there. So, you know, he was really trying to be an engineer and stuff, but he was crazy on the turntables. And him and my man AC Vinny Vince were like beasts. And so I coming up from watching those guys and then just studying everybody else, DST, Flash, the Disco Twins. You know, I had a lot of stuff in me, and when I started getting into it, you know, when I was in college is when I started. I had when it bought me some turntables, and I just kind of secluded myself. And I would go out to the DMCs to see what the temperature was with all the cats and stuff around the country. And once I saw that, I knew what to do, and I just went home and just, you know, developed my own skills. And then cats, you know, cats started hearing me. I was messing with Juju from the Beatnuts. He was telling dudes about me and stuff, and you know, when cats heard me, they was like, "This cat is crazy." DJ Riz, a lot of cats would come to the crib to check me out. So, you know, utmost respect. You know, and I met Rob Swift, Sinister, all those guys, Rock Raider. You know, so it was kind of crazy.
So you said something real crucial that a lot of people in hip hop may not know. Did you say that the Cut Creator that I think the masses and I came to know and love, that LL always shout out on his records, and that we seen in the Bad video with E-Love, you know what I'm saying? Rest in peace. Yep. I know he transitioned recently as well.
Yeah.
But are you saying that person in the Bad video and the person that LL was shouting out on Cut Creator, that's not the original Cut Creator? There's someone else?
Yeah, that's not the original Cut Creator. The original Cut Creator is my man Phil Remy. Yeah, he was in the neighborhood. And it's so bad because like on Go Cut Creator Go, Bobcat was scratching, I want to cut. So when we would do routines, all of us would go to Phil's house and make tapes and all that stuff. You know, everybody was doing back in the day. That was a record he always scratched. The Richard Pryor, that was my Richard Pryor album. And he said, you know, it was a joke about him, you know, messing with some prostitutes or something. He was like, you know, I want to cut. And he always used that phrase when he was scratching. And L took it and gave it to Bobcat. And so, you know, everything about that project, and he never got any credit for that stuff. But he did do scratches for I Need a Beat and Dangerous, L's first two records. He was the one scratching on those 2 records. And L offered him a main position to sign. You know, he set up the time. He wanted him to go down to Def Jam to sign. But like I said, Cut Creator was so smart and going to school to be an engineer that there was no way he could tell his mother, a single parent, that he was going to leave school to become a DJ. She was not having it. As long as we stayed in the house playing around with it, she was fine. But talking about leaving school and not going to college to pursue what he should be doing, there was no way he could tell her that. So he had to kind of, let that go. And L, because of his manager was named Phil Pot, it worked. He gave him the name Cut Creator Philly Phil.
Wow.
They look similar too. That's another weird thing. They kind of look similar, but that's not the real guy. That guy is not really a DJ. He might have played around, but he wasn't on the real Cut Creator's level. Cut Creator, he was a beast. He was a nice cat. He was crazy.
Oh, so that's why they brought in the homie from my hometown. I'm from LA originally, from Watts.
Yes, Bobcat. Yeah.
But Bobcat we know in LA from Uncle Jam's. We had Uncle Jam's Army back in the day.
That's crazy.
And he was part of Uncle Jam's Army. You know what I'm saying? So
that's really crazy. Yeah, that's why he brought him in to do some real stuff. To lay it down really nice. So, and he didn't know I can cut. L would come to my house all the time and stay at my house. And not one time did he know I was DJing. I never said a word to him. Neither did G-Rap. I didn't tell anybody. They found out through other people. LL just recently found out I was Dr. Butcher. He had no clue.
Yeah, was that from I know you mentioned and not moving too far forward, but I did see a story where you were on tour with G-Rap and you performed at the Apollo. And
I'm sorry.
Nah, and L was there, but you had a hoodie or something on, you said, and he didn't even know that was you.
No, he didn't even know it was me, dude. He was probably at my house a week prior to that. He didn't know because I didn't touch the turntables. I think he just thought I had him there to play records. He had no clue. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, that was the performance when Ice Cube debuted at America's Most Wanted. We were performing under Ice Cube. Cube was the headliner, and we were like the group right under Cube. And Redman was under us. He was the opener. So it was a dope show.
That's incredible, man. So the X-Men, which would eventually become the Executioners, who did they? I mean, what members? What did that consist of? Who was a part of that?
X-Men consisted of Steve D, Rock Raider, myself, Rob Swift, Diamond J, and there was Fat Man Scoop was down with us. Sean C was down with us. Producer Sean C was down with us. And there were 2 other cats. I can't think of the names right now, man. We had 2 other members down with us as well. And so that my man DJ E. Kim, he was in the competitions, but now he's more known for doing parties and he was doing the mixtapes and stuff. But E. Kim started out as a battle DJ, and we worked a block away from each other. So one day I was walking down, passing the Hard Rapp Cafe. He worked at an art scene, right? He worked at the Hard Rapp Cafe, right?
Right.
And he was like, Butcher. And I was looking, I was like, oh, snap. So we got to talking and hanging out, and that came up, and he said, yo, I'm cool with Steve D. Let's go to his house. So, he and I met at his house, and after that, I ended up meeting Rob Swift and Sinister. My name spread around the neighborhood, and then I took them up there, and we just all decided to connect. And I remember another cat, C4, was down with us, and he's the one that produced Put It In Your Mouth. He was down with us.
Akinelli.
Yeah,
Akinelli. That's a classic. That beat, that beat is incredible. I think just so many people mixed and remixed and rapped over that record. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Yeah.
And I gotta say something to you too. I'm kind of mad at you. I got a little bone to pick with you, man. You know why? Because I don't even know if Danger realized this. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Rocky, my partner up here. But because of y'all, the X-Men, you said you were part of the X-Men?
Yeah.
Well, me and my group, Crew Thick, I was solo. I'm the first Crew Thick Dynasty Raider. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you said this?
Yes. And later on in 93, me and my partner, I came called Remedy with my DJ Plex, who did the 40 bars beat for Allen Iverson. We became the Next Men.
That's crazy.
You know what I'm saying? And Jay Swift, he can tell you this. We used to go to New York, and he used to shop our shit. We would shop and we would go to the labels, but because we were the Next Men, it was already the X-Men. There was this group of DJs as the X-Men. So y'all were kind of already established and solid in the industry.
Right.
And because us going up there to shop our shit called the Next Man, you know what I'm saying? We had to change the name of our group, which we became the Sacred Order after that. But we had to change our name because of y'all. The X-Men, the DJ Executioner.
But you know what? That name started because they had the name before I even joined the clique, and I think it was to oppose the Superman. You know, Clark Kent, and Plastic Man, Scratch, and Richie Rich, and those guys. So it was just a fun beef. And it wasn't really a beef. Me and Clark were super cool. Richie Rich, I had all the respect for Scratch. You know what I'm saying? And it was funny because I remember when we were rehearsing for that Apollo gig, Scratch and Clark were there, but they were behind the curtains from the stage. And I looked over and I had a hoodie on then, and they didn't know who I was, and I saw them. So I was like, oh man, these dudes in the background, I got to show off a little bit. So I was kind of lighting it up, and dudes were just standing there watching. And later on, when I really started hanging out with Clark, he told me, he's like, yo, dude, you're crazy. He said, I didn't know, but you're crazy. And so, but I stayed quiet. Like, I never entered any of the battles. I wanted to be kind of like Bruce Lee. You know, he never really got into competitions, but he could beat everybody. You know, I kind of had that mindset. And it wasn't against DJs particular. I didn't like the organizations, the DMC. I felt like they were using these young males from the neighborhood to promote an organization that really wasn't doing nothing. You walked away with a jacket and a turntable or a mixer or something. You know, like, there was not like they were giving you 10 grand and putting you on a worldwide tour. Now, Cash Money, some dudes got to go on tour, but they, signed up with groups and they got to tour with groups. That wasn't for everybody, though. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, I don't want to be anybody's prostitute. So I don't want to let them solicit what I could do to them make money. You know, all their tapes, the DMC tapes, the battles were very popular. They were making a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, dude. I just sat back on it. It wasn't a big thing for me. I really never had any interest. And so because of that, when I met Rob Swift, he expressed to me that he wanted to join. And I was like, all right, well, I've seen it. I know how to train for it. If you stick with me, I'll get you through it. And so we trained for like a whole year straight. We both went to the same college, Baruch College. And after school, I worked, but we would meet in the evening and we would train for 2 or 3 hours for a whole year, at least 4 or 5 times a week. And so I had him prepared where he made the finals and stuff, or the semifinals. He did well his first year. I think it took about 3 competitions before he actually won, because it's a learning experience. You know, you got a lot of nerves you're dealing with in front of an audience, and just the tone of how to battle is a different thing as well. But we got there and he finally pulled it off. So it was a good thing.
Excuse me, that DJ battle in the movie Juice, what was that like, man? Was that something that, you know what I'm saying, you could identify with?
Absolutely, because one of the DJs, actually Vanguard, he's one of the DJs in the movie. He and I had just battled. He was down with the Superman, and so he was like, I want to battle him, and my man had a barbershop. So we battled in the barbershop. We put turntables in the battle. It's something that could have been in a movie. And we went in there and went at it in the barbershop. And I had Baby G from the original concept sat there and watched it as well, because he's nice. He's crazy, and I was always a fan of his. And my man Norms, he's like, yo, Butcher wants you to come and check this battle out. So he sat there, and that's when I actually met C4 afterwards from the shop, and he was playing me. And he lived in my neighborhood, and I had no clue. His dad was like a old school DJ, like, the cats, like a Cool Herc. They just played records and stuff. But his dad was down with Richard Long, and they designed Bertha speakers in the Vegas for Studio 54. So his father was legendary in the neighborhood, Phase 1. And he had his record collection, and he played me his stuff, and he was crazy on the tables too. I was like, you nice, bro. And then, he drove me home. We both lived in Corona, and I invited him up, and, to get busy and stuff. And he did his thing, but he's funny because years later, he tells me, he's like, yo, I didn't want to say nothing to you, bro, but when I left your crib, I was about to give up DJing. But he was like, because he's like, I'm an egomaniac. Nobody could beat me in my mind. He said, but you was doing stuff I've never seen before, and I couldn't figure it out. And I left distraught. And he's like, yo, I was going to give it up. I was like, you crazy. No, you wasn't. Because he was nice. C4 is a crazy dude, but that's what it was all about, man. I was around a lot of cats, Raider, all these cats were nice. So we just pushed each other to the next level.
You mentioned, you just kind of slid in and mentioned the group, which a lot of the hip hop world might not realize, but you said Original Concept.
Yeah, man.
And, most people don't know Original Concept. The world came to know and love is Dr. Dre and Ed Lover.
Dr. Dre. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Of Yo TV Raps fame.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The Original Concept, Bite My Style. You know what I'm saying? That record. You know what I'm saying? Knowledge me, Meg.
Knowledge is crazy. So, those songs are crazy.
I'm a hip hop head. I'm a hip hop historian. But I wanted to ask you something too about the DMC battles, the DJ battles, because me coming from, I moved to New York in the late 80s. My cousin is from Brooklyn, from LG, Lafayette Gardens. I'm coming from California. I'm trying to be the illest lyricist, but we wanted that approval. It was everything to get the stamp from New York. And in the late 80s, one of a DJ from my home, from LA again, from actually Compton, DJ Aladdin won the DMC.
I saw that. I was there when he won that. Him and Miz.
For real.
I was there that night. Yeah, I was there.
That meant everything for us on the West Coast, to get somebody from the West Coast to get that stamp. You know what I'm saying?
But y'all cats had a bunch of dudes. Y'all had a lot of cats coming out of California, dudes that were nice. You know what I'm saying? Q and all those. What is it? Rodney?
Yeah, Cuba came later from the Bay Area. Yeah.
But early on, y'all had a bunch of dudes, man. Like, the fast scratching dudes and stuff. And when I saw Aladdin, reminds me of the cat AC Vinny Vance that I came up under. When I was watching him, I was like, oh man, that's Vinny reincarnated. Like the speed and the flair, Vinny was exactly like that. And Miz was kind of more like a cut creator, just really focused on the tables and doing his thing. So like those are like my influences. So what a lot of people don't realize, with DJs back then using real vinyl, certain pieces of vinyl were designed, like they didn't intentionally, I don't think, design it for DJs, but the vinyl was very light with thicker grooves. So you were able to do things with the vinyl without the record skipping as much. Albums like the disco break, some of the songs you could, others you couldn't, because they would squeeze the grooves together to get more songs on the record. And those particular records were very difficult to use. And because of that, a lot of DJs all used the same records because they were easy to do things with. But that was a favorite amongst all DJs, Rock the Bells, because it just had that flair. You could do all types of scratching and tricks and back spinning, and it would like change the beat. That's fresh. Same thing. The record was like paper light, and you just felt like you were on a cloud scratching and stuff. So that's why you always heard those specific records used, which is dope.
I didn't know that. That's DJ 101.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Dope.
Yes, sir.
So you are credited with providing the sound for what would be Kool G Rap's solo career. You had a relationship with Polo and G Rap. So what was that like? When the split happened, and you were there, because you were there before they split, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So and the split was money based. Polo felt like he put G Rap on, and he wasn't getting the money. He felt like things should go half and half. G had a different view of that. And I was kind of in the middle because, G-Rap's my man. Like I said, we were running around the neighborhood, rapping and battling people. And Polo's like my mentor. I'm his little brother. So he was only comfortable with me coming in there taking that role because G-Rap was trying to give that to another cat named Camille, who was a known DJ in the neighborhood. And his parents owned a record store. So Camille had a ton of records, all types of loops and breaks. He was a collector. And so G was like, man, if I get Camille down, Butch, like I can use his record collection, find beats and stuff and take them to Marley, have them put them together. Camille wasn't having it. He's like, nah, I'm not bringing any of my records to the studio. And so G-Rap was like, well, what do I need you for? Rest in peace to Camille. He's not here with us anymore either. But, so that didn't work out. And then he found out what I can do. And so he laughed because, like I said, we were together every day and I never told him what I could do. I just would listen to him talk about it. And, he took me to the studio to audition. Eric B was executive producer of Wanted Dead or Alive. So he had Eric there. He wanted him to see what I could do. And I was just cutting. And they had Who Was Back in the background. Large had just finished it and he had just laid his vocals. And I just started scratching to it, but they kept the scratches. And at the end of the record, you hear the scratches faded up with me cutting the scratches with the record and stuff. But that was me showing Eric B that I can get busy and stuff. So there was no tension. I stayed out of that, but I know what the tension was and why I was there. And it was right on both sides. I'm not going to say G-Rap was wrong. I'm not going to say, Polo's right. People felt like he didn't do anything. Polo wasn't a turntablist. He was a playboy, you know what I'm saying? Right. Polo had all the women, you know what I'm saying? Polo was that dude. But he had the connections. He put G-Rap on. So in his mind, it's like, hey, I brought this together. You know what I'm saying? I'm cool with Butcher doing that role. I was cool doing the form. I would put the show tapes together with a crazy cuts, to make him look good, because I wasn't going to the shows. I would do the show tape. Yo, Cuzzo, here you go. I wanted him to look good, so he could stand there and pretend to be doing that stuff. But that wasn't Polo. Everybody knew that wasn't him. So when it fizzled out, it just happened. I felt bad about it because, I had love for both guys, so that's how it went.
It's crazy you say that because in the 80s, you mentioned something earlier, and I noticed that moving from the West Coast to the East Coast in the late 80s, like the DJ, at the beginning of hip hop, the DJ was in the forefront and the MC was kind of secondary.
Support.
And I noticed by the mid to late 80s, there was like a riff, like you had Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, Eric B, and the MCs became more prominent and they became the center stage and the main focus. And it seems, Spinderella, Salt and Pep, it's like a lot of the DJs started to get disgruntled because they wanted to be equal pay as part of the group. But they wasn't getting paid, and there was like a lot of breakups. And this, were you around that? Or does that make sense to you? Are you familiar with?
Absolutely, bro. Yeah, because you look at Richie Rich. That's why he left. Them guys and stuff because he told me they wouldn't pay him. He was traveling with Third Base, and they just wasn't paying him. And then you have a cat like Cutmaster DC, who was incredible, on the turntables, and he was doing his thing on the mic as well, doing his own production. He was a one-man show, and I think he did that just to avoid all the madness, you know what I'm saying? So you had Dougie Fresh, Chillwell, and Barry B, so a lot of cats had dope DJs, but like you said, the gears shifted to where the rapper became the front person on vinyl. And, the DJs played the background, but they wanted great DJs behind them to support them. So that was a big thing. Cash Money and Marvelous. Everywhere you had the rappers, but they wanted top-notch DJs behind them. And even like with Miz, when they won the competition, they put them with Fresco. So the labels started, that was like a trend where they would have these competitions and the best DJ and the best rapper, they would put them together. That didn't necessarily work. Miz and Fresco, two super talents, didn't really do much. Tommy Boy thought it was a good idea, which it probably was, but I don't think there was a mesh there. It really didn't happen. So
it wasn't organic.
It wasn't organic, And I remember doing an interview for Uncut.com, and later, I was just talking, and I guess later on, Robbie Edelson, the owner of the label of the site, reached out to me and he said, "Yo, is this you?" And he was doing an interview with Fresco, and Fresco was talking about he went to Brooklyn Tech and Cut Creator was there, and so a lot of cats. That's how I met G-Rap because everybody knew the Cut Creator was working with LL Cool J. He was the real DJ, and they were coming around trying to get on. And so it was the same thing with Fresco. He was living in Brooklyn. He met him in school and was like, "Yo, can I come out and check you out on the turntables and stuff? Let me spit for you a little bit." And he's like, "Sure." And so him and his boy came out there to watch him, and he was like, "Yo, this dude was super nice on them tables." And then I show up, and I was a little kid with a big afro, always had bubble gum in my mouth, and I'm just standing there watching. And he was like, "Yo, Drew, get the mic." And so I got on the mic and started rapping. And I wasn't competing. I didn't know these dudes were rap. I didn't know Fresco was rap. I didn't know who he was. I just thought there was some cats coming to visit. I didn't know where they were from, but I just got on and started doing my thing. And he's telling the story like, "Yo, this little kid walked in the house and got on the mic and blew me away. He was like, he was the nicest kid I ever heard in my life. Like, where is this dude at?" And so he was like, all I remember is he said something about if I had my own month, he would call it Drew Simba. And so he thought that I was saying my name was Drew Simba, but it wasn't. And so the dude hit me up and he's like, "Is he talking about you?" I was like, "Yeah, that was me." I didn't remember it though, like I said, because he wasn't there. He didn't come there to battle me. He was just there checking out Cut Creator. But it was interesting that he mentioned he kept that with him for a long time. And I still haven't talked to him though, but the guy told him who it was. So it was very, very interesting. Like I said, the cats that were meat cut creator knew he was a beast on the turntable. There's nothing to play with. So, and that's how I met G-Rap. My man, Dog, brought him around. He was trying to get on, he brought him a cut creator. And then all of us just connected because G-Rap was going uptown. So if you think of old school artists, everybody's thinking Kool Moe Dee and Melly Mel to be the best. They weren't. The best old school rapper was Silver Fox from the Fantasy 3. He was light years ahead of all of them. And you don't hear about him because he was so nice, they would never let them go to the shows and perform until, they made the record, It's Your Rock, and then Crash Crew stole the music and came out with Crashes on the Radio. And then they came out with Biters in the City. That's what people know Fantasy 3 for. But Silver Fox, the lead rapper, LL and Kool G Rap met him, and both of them told me afterwards, yo, bro, there's nobody that can mess with that dude. That dude is ridiculous. And I was like, what? Nah, you're bugging. He's like, listen to me. There's nobody better than that cat. He is the best person I ever heard in my life. The dude is insane. He doesn't sound like nobody you've ever heard because his cadence and his style. He was wording stuff and metaphors. He was doing stuff that nobody was doing. Melly Mel wasn't doing none of them. They was kind of rough, that old school stuff. Fox wasn't doing that, you know what I'm saying? So he was crazy. And Tito from Fearless 4, me and him are tight. He told me, I asked him, that's the first thing I wanted to know. He said, man, that dude was older than us, Drew. He said he was 29 years old when he hit the scene. We were 15, 16. So he was more mature in his mind. He said he was coming to hip hop from another angle and we couldn't mess with him. He's he was just way ahead of us. None of us could touch him. DLB, myself, Tito, Special K, he's nobody can mess with that dude. Melly Mel, Kaz, none of them were in his realm. That dude was somewhere else. But he doesn't really get known. He talks about it, but a lot of people don't know about him. But all credit to that cat, man. Fox is a monster.
What was tour life like with G-Rap? And was that the first tour that you were a part of?
That was the first show I was a part of. It's funny, the second show that I was a part of was in Asbury Park. No, it was in Atlantic City. And that night, Silver Fox showed up with a female group he was working on. And that was the first time I ever got to meet Silver Fox. And they talked briefly and stuff. But I didn't like it too much, man. The money wasn't right. You know what I'm saying? I was just nah, that's not for me, I was running around with Large Professor at the time. A lot of cats were hitting me up to come in the studio and do a lot of scratch work. I did all the scratches on Chi Ali's album. His dad was his manager, his dad Stan. He was managing the youngsters and a bunch of other artists, and he would bring me in to do all of their scratches and stuff. So I just started kind of, moonlighting and doing my own thing. You know what I'm saying? I didn't, touring stuff, if the money wasn't going to be there, like I said, I was in school, I was working 2 jobs. I had money, you know what I'm saying? So
right.
I'm not going to go on a road, you got all these people. I don't like being around a lot of people, dude. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like trouble in the making. And so if the money wasn't right, I wasn't going out for $150. I would save my talent. I wasn't showing myself off. So I just didn't really go out too much. Polo would love to go out, but that's why the beef started, because he wasn't really getting the money he felt like he should be getting. So it, just kind of parted after a while.
Now you said something earlier. You was talking about yourself being young with the afro. And you kind of made me think that if you knew this, he became like a super producer in hip hop and in black music, period. And I wanted to know if you knew this cat, because he was actually in the movie Crush Crew. He was the young kid during the talent show that beat out the Fat Boys for the turntables by the name of Chad Elliott. Are you familiar with him?
Yes, I am. I didn't know him. I know exactly who you're talking about. He's a beast. Chad is a beast. But I didn't have any dealings with him. But I knew exactly who he was. Yeah, I've been in the circle. We've been in the circle together. But he's not somebody I had on speed dial who I was talking to. I wouldn't say that. But I was very familiar with him. A lot of the R&B cats who were doing hip hop, they were crazy. Cats out of DC and all that. Them brothers were crazy.
Well, I heard he did LL Booming System too.
Chad Booming System?
Yeah.
Oh, that's dope. So yeah, that's dope, because there was cats coming out of Oklahoma who did Color Me Bad, They were living in New York at the time, and one of the guys down with that clique was a hip hop producer, and he was working with me and Akinelli on Akinelli's project. Like that, they brought us in, and he was dope, man. Because he was a multi-instrumentalist, and but they just didn't have that grit, the hip hop boom bap grit. So when I would come over and leave my equipment there, like they would, they had a crazy crew, like 15 people, and one cat was focused on like orchestral stuff. One dude was a church-based guy. Mark Murray, that's the hip hop cat. He did the hip hop, but he could do everything. He played guitar, bass, keys. They would go through my drum machines and steal all my samples, right? And I would come back and they'd be laughing and smiling and giggling. I'm like, what's so funny? And it's like, we kind of raped your machines, took all your drums. I thought it was funny. I was like, it's all good, bro. I'll bring y'all drums. Because they didn't know anything about that. And I think they felt like their music was lacking that edge, which we knew in New York and LA, the drums, is what gives your music that edge. So I started hooking them dudes up with drums and stuff. And if I needed them to play, they could walk right in the studio and just and kill stuff, man. They were nice. So Nardo, Hamza, all those cats are super, super nice. Yeah, and the black dude, Trey, that was down with Color Me Bad, that dude was blood. In the video, you think he's like just some pretty boy singing.
Right.
He was blood,
shit.
Bro. True blood.
Right.
As true blood as blood can be. Cats and that, and they were out there at the time. They were living in Long Island. They were out there at a time when that was becoming cool to be, the Bloods and Crips in New York was picking up on that stuff. People go out there and challenge them kids all day long, bro. Like, Reem and Manu. And like, he was not, because that was life for them dudes. When you talk to real cats, that's life. That's what they grew up into. They don't play that. So if you're in the street claiming Crip or Blood because it's cool to do, they're going to step to you. And he would do it all day long. He could care less. And yeah, he rattled some feathers.
So
peace to them brothers, man.
Getting into your discography on the production side, you were credited for production on Kool G's first solo project, 456, which went #1, as well as The Roots of Evil, 98, and the G and Connor Story, 2002. Yeah. Now, what was that like, man, being a part of a #1 album? You know what I mean? At that time.
Well, at the time, it was tough with the 456 project because I had just kind of started producing, you know what I'm saying? And what happened was he brought me in, she was doing something in Chungking and invited me to the studio to remix her record. And the A&R person was there from Sony. He was on Epic, Sony, and Awanda Booth. And she heard the music and she saw me and we got to talking and she was like, gee, I want him to do your whole project, the album. And he was like, word? And she was like, yeah, I like him. I want him to do the whole project. So he brought me in, but some beef happened and a contract was put on G's life. And so it got real funky with us for recording. They would send us all around everywhere, man, to go to all these random studios because it was a real thing. It was a real thing that they were trying to kill him. And he didn't trust anybody. I mean, it was so serious at the time. I was one of the few people he trusted because he had a baby with somebody who was really close to me, a friend of mine. And, we were all like family. His mom, her and I loved like saltwater fish. I mean, I would go over there and sit and talk to her the whole day just about fish.
That's crazy.
We were just cool. My mom's him tight. We were all tight. It was like one little family. And so he trusted me, you know what I'm saying, to go out and do stuff. He knew I wasn't a street cat. I wasn't into that stuff. So he kept his network very small. We had legendary engineer Steve Vett traveled with us. He did Run DMC, Beastie Boys, all them cats. Trackmasters, that's what they used. Monster of an engineer, but he passed. Rest in peace to him. And so it was, I got through that process because of Steve Vett, bro. I'm going to have to give it to Steve because I didn't know what to say. Even though later on, my partner, CJ Moore, came up through 1212 Studios with Paul C. Since he was 14, he was producing and engineering. He knew it, and I brought him in the network later on. But at that time, he was signed to Tommy Boy as a group called Black by Demand. He was doing his own thing. So I just kind of ran with who G'd them. They were hiring the best of the best. And Steve Vett was there with us, traveling with us. And that dude's ear and sense of sonics, dude, was impeccable. So I can have a snare, and then I would have something on the record where I was sampling. And I was like, Steve, how close can you get this snare to what's in the record? He's like, give me 15 minutes. And I'll come back in and it would sound identical. Like, he was just that guy. And he told me he would read a lot of the Beatles books, and he would study how the engineers mixed and mastered the records. So he had all this knowledge, and I can come up with an idea. I was like, yo, in 456, the hook, I want that backwards reverb like in the Poltergeist movie. He was like, oh, okay. So he took the reel, flipped the reel upside down, spliced the tape, recorded 456 the hook, flipped it back over and put the reverb on it, and it gave you the backwards effect in the song. And he was just nice like that, dude. He would split that tape like nothing, boop, boop, and piece it back together, and it was perfectly in sync. Like, he was a beast. I love that dude, man. Like, everything I would do, I could just ask him a question. He said, I got it. And he knew the sonics, he knew the subs. I didn't have to say anything. So working around someone like that, I was humble enough to sit back and just, absorb everything he was doing. And he made it a big song. He made it a big production. He helped me out. I put everything together, but the sonics is just as important as the production. If you listen to Dre's producers, I know I came across a tape my man had. Their production is just as ordinary as any other producer on the street. But when they get to that recording studio and Dre has to mix that stuff and his crazy top-notch engineers touch it, it becomes next level. That's the difference. And a lot of people don't know that. They think it's just what the guys do. And this is before all the Trinities and Tritons and the big keyboards came out, having a big sound. When you had to sample records, dude, and put stuff together, you had to have an engineer who could make them records big. Because if you listen to a lot of old records and compare them to what's out there today, very few records can stand up to the sound, the high volume records that are being released today. Very few. A lot of stuff, you have it in your playlist. Illmatic, even something like Paid in Full. A lot of records, if you got a playlist going, those records come on like they're so low compared to the next record, And that's because mastering, the levels and the things that were going on at the time were completely different. And mixing and EQing samples was a challenge. When we came back from doing Roots of Evil, we were in the mastering session, and the engineer there was mastering Wu-Tang's second album. And he was angry. He told me he had been there like 3 weeks, 24 hours a day. He said, man, I've been home like 3 times to change my underwear. He was like, yo, they think I can make magic. He said a mastering engineer is supposed to pick up where the engineer left off. But he said they think I can go into the tracks and bring out the sonics and make the tracks crazy. And I can't do that. He said it was a tough thing. He was not impressed with Wu-Tang whatsoever. And there's so much so, he said he would never work on another one of their projects. He would never master another Wu-Tang project ever in his life. That's how angry he was and frustrated with that project. So that also told me, yo, you got to bring everything to the table good enough so when the mastering engineer gets it, you give him the right product that he could take to the next level. Because if you don't, it's going to be a nightmare.
That's dope, man.
Experience, man. It's been a learning experience all around, and it always is. You never stop learning.
Yeah, you mentioned Paul C. Is that the legendary Paul C that Large Professor always speaks of?
Yes, sir. So my partner CJ Moore and Paul C were the main engineers in 1212 Studios. And I was working with Paul C from high school at 13, 14 years old, bro, recording records. I have records in my room right now on cassette that I can't listen to because I don't have a cassette player, but stuff that he put together. So Paul would live in the studio, and any free moment he would call me and my partner Royal Rich. Me, him, and LL had a group, the Extravagant Three, but LL left and started doing the solo stuff. But Paul C loved us, we were nice. We always liked to battle people. We were everywhere winning battles and stuff. But he was recording us, and he was recording Organized Confusion. So that's, Prince Poe and Pharoah Monch. And we would all rotate in and out of the studio. Paul would just call you at the moment's notice, 11 o'clock at night. He's calling us, yo, I got studio time if you want to come in. So I'm jumping on the train 11 o'clock in the school night, going to the recording studio till like 4 in the morning, just working. But it was fun. My mom didn't mind. We went go in there, get it done, and go to school, man. I didn't get a lot of sleep. I would drive Large Professor to school while we were recording Wanted Dead or Alive.
That's crazy,
he was in high school. Yeah, he was in high school. So, he's 17 years old. Cass didn't realize he was so young, So we would leave the studio 6 in the morning. I would shoot him to school. I would go home, get dressed, and I would go to college. I was in school and working too. And at night we would do it again, dude. Like, dudes were not getting any sleep whatsoever.
That's dope, man. I think I heard Large Professor speak about that. So 95 was 456, and then y'all came back with the Roots of Evil in 98. Now, the Giancana story, 2002. You said something earlier that makes this particular album make a lot of sense in Kool G Rap's style, you know, when it comes to this mafioso shit, you know what I'm saying? Because you said being in Queens, that shit is real. You know what I'm saying? The mobsters and shit, man. So
they were there. They were there right next to us.
So what was that like? I mean, so pulling from that, are there any stories that you can remember that, you know what I'm saying, that was just...
We typically, so where they live, that they call Little Italy, not, you know, with our version of Little Italy, you had the Ice-T King, you know, the Italian Ice-T King there. We didn't, black people, I'm gonna be specific, brothers didn't go in those neighborhoods, and that area was right next to Left Rack City. But we didn't go in those areas too often because we didn't get along. So if you went in there solo and walked through the neighborhood, it was a big chance that you might get chased out of there with bats and knives and all types of crazy stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
And reverse, if they came to our neighborhoods, they were going to get it too. So, you know, it was just staying away from the stuff. You know what I'm saying? Just trying to stay safe. And so we didn't really mingle with them dudes so much unless you went to school with them, you know, cats who knew them, grew up with them. My cousin lived in the neighborhoods. He knew them all. I didn't venture into the neighborhood. I didn't care to know them. I wasn't in the street. So in my mind, they didn't mean nothing to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just didn't care. They weren't coming to the park jams. But those that did were cool dudes and hung out with dudes. They weren't about that. But, you know, you had other people who had to act like they were all mobsters. You know what I'm saying? And that just wasn't the case. It was a facade, you know, but everybody had to pretend to be the world's craziest mobster. So, you know, G-Rap just from outside of it looking in, you know, just took that on and just wrote stories about it. You know what I'm saying?
Man, yeah, he talked that shit, bro. Like, that dude, man. I mean, you were part of
stories with it. Yeah.
Part of incredible, you know what I mean, situation, man. Is there any other artists or production that, you know what I'm saying, that you've done outside of G-Rap that, you know what I mean, we might not know about?
Well, I did a lot of work for MF Grimm. You know, him and MF Doom and all them dudes came up. You know, Grimm is incredible. So on 456, you know, you got Money on My Brain and shit ain't never gonna change.
Right.
Grimm, I brought him because Grimm is a monster. He was a monster lyrically and a monster with his hooks. He would have notebooks just filled with hooks. So I was, you know, and he knew G-Rap, like, you know, before he got shot and was in a wheelchair, he would come out and hang out with us. He would come to Queens from Harlem and hang out with us all the time. And that's how he and I developed a good relationship. And I was making songs for him, giving him tracks, going to the studio recording for him. And during the project, like I said, G didn't like a lot of cats coming up there, but I was like, bro, I need Grimm up here. I said, you know, so a lot of the 456 songs were pre-recorded. G had bought Molly Mall's studio and had it in his crib and would do demo stuff up. My man Naughty Shorts did a lot of production, but Shorts got caught up in stuff. So I had to remix a lot of records. A lot of them songs were remixes. 456 was a remix. G was so stressed out with what was going on with his life on the line that he couldn't write. He had writer's block. He could barely think of anything.
Man, that shit is real, bro.
So it wasn't until Nas came in there to do Fast Life and Grimm came up with my man B1 and he brought his boys up there from Harlem that, you know, he relaxed. You know, I was like, yo, I need Grimm and his crew up here, bro. Like, you know, he'll bring some stuff together. He's crazy. And so he came in and all those hooks, shit ain't never gonna change. That's all Grimm.
Damn.
He would just listen to the music and say, yo, Butch. He and I was like hand in glove. He said, yo, I got it. He said, what do you think? He would just recite. I was like, oh man. I was like, see, bro, this is why I needed this dude. I should have had him hit a whole album. We should have just brought him up here. He went in there and that was crazy. Money on My Brain, same thing. I sat and did the track real fast because we had time and we wanted to squeeze something in. So I just pulled out the Herpy joint, put it together, and he just, you know, Money on My mother effing brain, you know, he just sat there, pulled out another hook and set everything off. And then G-Rap, he got him. He just sat there listening and just started writing. Like, he brought that energy back to G-Rap and got him going again. So did Nas. So, you know, G feeds off people. The energy is important with that dude. So that's why when he's on Posse Cuts, that challenging energy, he would go in there and kill you. Like, he lives on that stuff, dude. He's a carnivore when it comes to that. So you're not going to live through a posse track with him. You know what I'm saying? That was his thing. He loved to take people on and that stuff. So that environment, that was him all day.
Without getting into any specific detail, did that beef stem from from the streets or some music shit?
the streets, man. It was something so simple and silly that happened, but it just turned serious.
Yeah.
It was a little simple incident that happened.
Yeah, man. That's I can hear it now that you know, when I listen back, you know what I'm saying, I can hear that shit, man, in the music. You know what I'm saying? G Rap is highly regarded. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
respected. You know what I mean? So, we definitely, you know what I mean, tap into G, you know what I mean?
And after that, like, you know, it got so serious, he had to move to Arizona. You know, because he was in Staten Island, and I would drive out to Staten Island working on a project. And they, like I said, they kept moving him around. And at one point, he was in Staten Island. And one night, I drove all the way out there from Queens, and they had a big moving truck sitting out front of the house, and everything was gone. And I had my uncle had passed away, and he was an avid record collector and DJ. He had like 30 or 40 crates of records, and I had all of them at G-Rap's house because I was working on music. Everything was gone. My collection was gone. Later on, I found out the Trackmasters had my collection.
So G left. I mean, when he went to Arizona, you were still out there, right?
Yeah, because they got wind that the people that were after him found out where he was in Staten Island. Somebody saw him out there, and they put it out there that he was there. So they found out where he was, and they were coming to get him. And it got to the A&R, and she called and said, "Hey, we're going to just send you money to get a plane ticket. You have to leave right now. Don't take anything with you. You have to get out. They're coming for you." So he just got in the car with his wifey, like my sister, and his baby, his son, his little kid. Got on a plane and disappeared. Like, I didn't hear from him for like a few weeks. You know, he didn't want nobody to know where he was.
The reason why I asked you that, because were you worried, like, you know, because G, I mean, did it just like stop at G? You wasn't worried that, well, shit, G ain't around, I'm still here, you know what I mean, type of thing?
Not really. I was, like I said, dude, I was quiet. I knew the dudes, you know what I'm saying? I was around. I wasn't hanging with the dudes, but, you know, they were involved with other parties, and I would be in that circle from time to time, but I wasn't with the dudes. That was just the life they were living. You know, the real 50 Cent was down with them and all that stuff, you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
that's just
shit,
the life they were living, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I wasn't a part of that life, so I don't think it was ever a thought. G-Rap's girl was in more danger, you know, if anything, because they knew and she was from Brooklyn. She was from Bushwick, you know what I'm saying, project. So that's why she had to go. She couldn't be there because everyone knew her. And it was like, yo, they'll find me real easily. So she had to go to Arizona with the kid as well.
Right.
And he had to kind of start over. So while he was there, he actually met some guys and a producer whose dad was a part from Cali. I just can't remember. The cat was from Cali, and his father was a part of a really well-known band, like a big funk band. And this dude was nice, man. He was a multi-instrumentalist. He could play anything and everything you brought to him, but he wasn't a hip-hop producer. So G-Rap called me. He was like, "Bro, man, I really, really, really need you, man. Like, I got this guy. He's super dope, but he's not a hip-hop guy. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't know that sound. He got it, but he doesn't know that what's going to take it there." So I went out there, me and CJ Moore, and the first thing we did was file cats. We laid that. CJ had to bounce because his wife was giving birth, but I stayed there for like 3 months recording, and then CJ came back and mixed the whole album. And when they released File Cats, Raucous Records heard it. It was on the radio. Flex was burning it nonstop. Immediately, they went and signed them and gave them like a $1.5 million deal with like a $500,000 signing bonus. You know what I'm saying? So, dude was making money, but we were annoyed because Mike Haran was over there. You know, he was saying like he was telling me how they just wanted like an all-star cast of producers, and they kicked us out. They wouldn't let us do anything. I ended up doing one song on a project. Got paid $1 for doing it. You know, meanwhile, I'm watching all these other cats walking there getting 17 grand, 20 grand for a project. You know, you gotta take a deep breath, because I'm just really, you know, I just want to punch somebody in their chest real fast and walk out the studio. You know what I'm saying? Nah,
that's real, bro. You know, definitely a part of.
You know, thinking there's something special, and these dudes are, you know, hugged up on them because they got these superstars, and I'm just like, let me just go. I can't sit here and suck this up. This is killing me. But it was crazy, man. You know what I'm saying? It was one of them things, you know. And I had to tell him, you know, he wanted us to sign. And I was like, bro, we supposed to be here. Like, there was supposed to be a clause in that contract that said Dr. Butcher and CJ Moore get at least 3 tracks on this project. Mike Haran agreed. You know, there's no way you sign them based upon our work, and then you don't want to give us a track because you want this so good. And again, they didn't understand G-Rap is an energy guy. So they sent him down to Pharrell to work. And he told me, Pharrell, they made a track on the spot. And he was like, what's that? And it was like, yo, G, this will be great for you. I'm your biggest fan. Take this track, and you're gonna have a hit. And he was like, yo, I don't doubt you. I'm not doubting your skill set or what we have, but that's not a Kool G Rap track. I can't mess with that. Show me something else. No, this is what we got for you. Come on, G, you can do it, bro. Just follow me. Come on, do it. He's like, for real, I'm not gonna do that, bro. That's not me. It doesn't represent who I am. I'm not doing it. And he left. You know what I'm saying? And it was the same with a lot of the producers. You know, he had big dogs in there. But he didn't like everything he was doing. They were forcing the stuff on him because they thought they was going to make the most incredible Kool G Rap album ever. Only a handful of cats, you know, he liked the tracks. But he worked with it. He just did it because, you know, the money was there. And he's like, okay, if they're going to promote it. But that whole situation fell apart, man, because there was a lot of controversy, greed, and a lot of bad things happening behind the scenes. And Rupert Murdoch himself demanded an audit. And he saw how the money was flying out of the accounts. And didn't like it and shut everything down, so the whole thing fell apart.
Did he ever mention to you, as far as the G-Rap ever mentioned, working with one of Allen Iverson's artists that had reached out to him that he did a track with by the name of Ty Gracie?
Yes. And so I didn't know anything about the project, but I knew when it happened because he told me, yo, Iverson has a label, and his people reached out to me to do a track with Iverson's people. But I didn't know anything about it though, but I knew of it. He had definitely mentioned that to me.
Yeah, man, he came in there and did his thing, bro. And it was a hell of an experience to be in the midst of greatness. You know what I mean? Right. I actually got a chance to watch him record, sitting outside the booth, you know what I mean, in the studio, and it was just incredible, man. I'm gonna just say that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's like you live for those moments, bro. Like I remember when we were doing the Roots of Evil, we came back, they squashed the beef. So he was able to come back to New York and record. And Nature and Papoose and Jinx, a bunch of cats were in the studio, right? And G just finished writing, so he didn't have a lot of free things on hand, but they were all, you know, in a cypher doing their thing. He's like, come on, G, what you got, man? What you got? He's like, man, I just finished the project, man. I'm kind of empty right now. My tank is empty. He's nah, man, you joking. Come on, bro, what you got? He's like, all right. And he just went in, bro. He had everybody's tongue hanging at their mouths. Everybody just like, man, you play games, bro. Like, how you do that to us like that? He just murdered everybody. Then he laughs about it. Like I know he did the song with Nature and eat bugs and stuff. And you know, he let them record first, and then he went in there. And when they heard his verse, he wrote their rhymes in the studio, and he had his ready, but he wanted to give them time to do their thing, and they went and got their stuff crazy, and they got busy. You know, both got busy. You know, he got murdered later on, rest in peace to him, but they got busy. And he went in there, dude, and laid his verse, and them dudes just looked at him and was like, see, dude, why you do that? We'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah,
they wanted to do their verses all over again, because he was that dude, you know, like he knew he wanted the best of the best. And when I started traveling and touring with Jay-Z at one point, and when Irv Gotti and Ak and Irv Gotti, you know, we was all working, and Irv mentioned, you know, they kept hearing Butcher, but it didn't connect. And then it was like, why do you keep calling him Butcher? I think Dame Dash asked Irv, why you keep saying Butcher? He's like, yo, what do you mean? It's Dr. Butcher, Dr. Butcher. What are you asking me that for? And they stopped, and they all started looking weird. And he was like, Dr. Butcher? He said, yeah, Dr. Butcher, man. Kool G Rap Polo, Dr. Butcher, this is him. And they was like, no, that's not. And they got quiet, and they stared at me, and then everybody started dying laughing. And I was like, yo, what the hell? Like, I didn't know what was going on. But what happened was, Memphis Bleak was like, yo, Butcher, do you know that Kool G Rap is Hope's favorite rapper, like, of all time? Like, that's his dude. So to have you on the road DJing for him, like, they didn't know who you were. Now they're bugging. And so being Hope got real cool. And I didn't know later on, I heard hip hop in the interview with Vlad. Like, yeah, you know, we had a lot of cats on the road with us, but I'm going to tell you, Dr. Butcher was Hope's favorite DJ. That was his man. That was a quiet, cool cat. He loved him. So it was
That's dope.
Cool. Yeah, I liked it because he was mad cool, you know, just real quiet, you know, he just did his thing. You know what I'm saying? I had no problems with Hope, you know, working around him and stuff. He was a dope cat.
Hey, Danger, I got to ask you a question.
Okay.
Because you kind of mentioned it and we kind of went over it. You had brought up the record that Kool G Rap did with our brother from Crew Thick, Ty Gracie, with Kool G Rap. And earlier, he was just telling us about the whole story of Kool G Rap being on the run, bag on his head.
Right.
And he talked about his girl and the kid.
Right.
And I remember you telling me
they
about
was
the
there.
story.
I told him. I told Butcher that.
The story about being in the studio with the girl and the kid. Is that the same girl and the kid that he talking about?
No. He's probably talking about Ma Barker and her
That's
son.
exactly who I was talking about.
Yeah, no.
For sure.
His baby mother, who I'm talking about, like she wouldn't, people know, but she wasn't in the studio. She, she gave him the space to go record and do it. Because
Ma Barker was actually MC, man. That was dope. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's what I want to ask you, man. Where you at now with music and what you seen from the era that you come from, man? This shit is incredible. These stories, man, that you told us and being around these people. Where's hip hop now to you, man? How do you still have a passion for it, or do you? You know what I mean? And what sparks you when you hear shit nowadays?
So I just did a joint for a legendary cat from Queens named Mikey D. So him and LL were like, neck and neck. But Mikey D was probably the most known in Queens. He actually beat G-Rap in the battle before G-Rap started making records.
Man, I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Yeah. G-Rap even tells that story too. Before he started making records, right? And it's a funny story because Mikey D told me he came out there, like a cat brought him out there, him and Johnny Quest's DJ, who was super nice. Like I would study Johnny Quest. He was a crazy cat. But they came out to Corona, and Mike was on his stuff because he was like, he beat Melly Mel in the battle. Like that's the dude that won the seminar, and Melly Mel took the belt back. He was up there with the Gestapo dudes and took the belt back from Mike. Mike destroyed him. Yeah, so that same Mikey D. And so he was out there, and he was like, yo, who the best rappers out here? I want to battle. So they took him to G-Rap's house. And I was like, Dag, Mike, I wish I would have known, you could have came, they would have got me, and, you would have been protected. But they was battling, going back and forth. And my man Dog, one of my homies that ran with G-Rap, we would, that's who introduced me to G-Rap, but he's my super homie, rest in peace. While Mike was rapping, I guess he was getting the best of G to some degree. He said Dog punched him in the face, knocked him out. And he was like, yo, what you do that for? And he was like, yo, yada yada, and I was like, oh my god, man! But I know who it was because Dog was like that. He was just a wild cat, and Mike is like, man, I jammed me, dude, man. I was so angry, but I'm in somebody else's territory. I had to be smarter than that. So they end up going after the cat that brought him out there. He said he went over to the dude and knocked the other dude out, and they just left the dude laying on the ground. And Jim and G-Rap made up, and they kind of walked back to the train station, was spitting verses with each other, and everything got cool and stuff. And he was like, yo, it was my bad, man. I should have been out there showing off like that and showed him a little respect. You know what I'm saying? I wish I would have known you were there, because if I was there, that would have never happened. Both of y'all are my guys. Right. Mike, when I went to August Martin my freshman year, everybody was going crazy because I was a little tiny kid, and then my man Tislam was like, yo, he's crazy. And so all the rappers in the morning, everybody would be in auditorium battling, doing ciphers. And he brought me in there, and I started going, and the whole auditorium surrounded me. He's like, who's this kid? So word got out. And he's like, you got to battle Mikey D. And he came up and he looked at me. He's like, this little dude, I'm not battling him. But he's like, I got somebody for you. And he brought my man Royal Rich up there. Instead of battling, we joined forces. And then LL got down with us. But it was that was a dope thing, because I had my man Romantic Snow, who was down with Mikey D. LL was actually, he gave LL the name Lady Love Cool J. Like he was running behind him and stuff.
Oh, that's crazy, man. That's wild.
I'm gonna send it to you. I'm gonna send you something with him and Mikey D in the park, rapping, going back and forth back in the day. I'm gonna send that to you.
That's crazy, bro. Yo,
hey, I got two. Hold up. I got two questions for you, and they come from two generations. Because from just talking to you, man, I love you, man. First, I want to say I love you, man, because you like me. You a man after my own heart. It's like you a hip hop encyclopedia. You know hip hop from all the eras and all the generations. You feel me?
Absolutely.
But it seems like you brought up a couple times the Large Professor, man.
Yes, sir.
So it's like Large Professor. Back in the late 80s, I was on tour with Large Professor with Jazzo, who put on Jay-Z. Yeah, because he was an Ansar Muslim, KMD. MF Doom was part of KMD first before his brother died back in '92. We Sub Rock, but I used to do spot dates with Jazzo when they was on Wild Pitch. They were signed to Wild Pitch together. UMCs. So that tour that Jay-Z and Nas.
UMC
Now
is
I
related
talk
to
about-
Machiavelli. That's his cousins.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that tour that Jay-Z and Nas talk about with the tech on the dresser, I was on that tour. It was UMC's, Main Source, Jazz, so I was there like in the background, but I was just a kid, a teenager. But in Main Source, I want to know, I got to ask you this question. Main Source, Large Professor came out with a hip hop classic called Breaking Atoms, an album.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Were you around for that era? And they did a posse. They did a posse cut, which is legendary to the whole hip hop universe because it introduced us to the God song.
Yes.
Live at the barbecue. Were you around Large Professor and Main Source during the making of Breaking Atoms in that era and that generation and that tour?
Every day. I'm on the tracks. I'm on the songs in the background doing hooks for them every day.
Oh,
yeah. Oh,
so Nas, like I said, he was on Wild Pitch. So Premier would be in the studio when we was working on One Dead or Alive every night. So that's why me and Premier got super close. We were on the phone 5 times a day, every day. He would come to the studio, come to my house. He and I was super tight. Nas was there every day, but he was just quiet. Nas wasn't signed. He was quiet, but he watched me. He knew what I could do and what my role was with G-Rap. And so he approached me one night. He was like, yo, because I would come to the studio with Bibles and all types of self-help books, reading stuff. And that intrigued him. Like, yo, all these gangsters in the studio, bro, just sitting here reading the Bible, bro. And I was like, yeah, dude, I'm not moved. I'm me. Like, you had to be yourself. And that's me. You know what I'm saying? I'm different type of dude. So, he liked that. And so he and I would sit and build every night. And he was like, yo, bro, we both Virgos. He said, when I get on, man, you're going to be my DJ. Would you be I was like, absolutely, bro. Like, we're good with that. And later on, when him and Hove got into beef, I was working with Clark Kent. We were putting together his show tape for that tour, and I was supposed to be his DJ. So he and I would travel home every day. He had a limo, take me home and stuff. He and I, we would just talk. And he was like, Butcher, I told you long ago that I was going to make you my DJ, and I'm going to keep my word, bro. Like, it was meant to happen now. It wasn't meant to happen back then. It was meant for us to be together now. But even then, it got messed up. So, the third party stepped in and messed the whole scenario up, so it didn't happen. And I ended up moving to Dallas right after that.
The second question I got is kind of more for this generation. Knowing Kool G Rap, being around Kool G Rap, legendary, man, that's the God. We love him. But what I've seen over the past 5 to 10 years, a lot of the newer generation of East Coast up north rappers like Griselda, 38 Special, have embraced, and other New York rappers, up north rappers, kind of embraced Kool G Rap, paying homage to him, doing a lot of features. How were you around during this era, and what does Kool G Rap feel about that? Does he feel like, damn, I'm getting my just due by the younger generation embracing me like that? Are you aware of or around during this time, the last 5 to 10 years, when these young new generation of New York up north, you know what I'm saying, Griselda, 38 Special, embracing him and kind of bringing him back to the forefront?
No, because he and I, around in the early 2000s, 2003, I had put him in a scenario after the Walker situation fell. Something landed on my plate, and they wanted G-Rap to do a feature on a song. So I brought him in, and then it was a cat that had some money, and he had an artist. And then he was starting a label, and I was like, hey, I thought about it when they left. I had negotiated the deal. I got G-Rap on the phone. They agreed to stuff and, was putting it together. But then I was like, yo, so you starting a label? He was like, yeah. And I said, well, G-Rap is not signed at the moment. His Walker scenario fell apart, so he's kind of freelancing. It might be a cool thing, if you're interested, to talk to him, I can set it up and maybe let him debut your label. Right. So this particular person didn't know who Kool G Rap was. He knew nothing about him, right? But he had a lot of bread. Right. So he went home, he said, well, I'll get back to you, Butcher. He went home and did some research, and people told him, dude, if you can get Kool G Rap to set off your album, you'd have to be a fool not to sign him. Right. So he hit me right back up immediately. And, started asking about numbers, and, we talked and got everything negotiated, came down and put a whole scenario together. And that's when he brought Ma Barker and, her brother 40 in, and they had their clique putting stuff out. But some stuff went down, man, and it caused a friction between him and I, and we hadn't talked since. Like
that's 03?
Around that time, because people think it's a music thing. Everybody's like, yo, y'all gotta put that aside and work. I'm like, y'all don't understand. Our relationship is not based upon music. It's more of a brotherly thing, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So from my standpoint, we gotta talk that way. It's a family thing that has to be ironed out. And until that is, music means nothing to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have a certain level of integrity. I'm not caught up in the legendary Kool G Rap. Like, he's not caught up in the legendary Dr. Butcher. It's Abdul and Drew. You know what I'm saying? So until we can speak that out as men, it'll stay where it is. And it's unfortunate. Because honestly, I haven't really been impressed with anything I've heard. Not feeling myself. But like I said, it's an energy thing with him. And I know what his energy is. He would always come to me because I knew what kind of music to give him. I knew where he wanted to be. So it was always easy for me to work with G-Rap. Like, I knew what he wanted. It was really easy to give him tracks. So a lot of people want to see that, get back. But some things just have to happen prior to that happening.
Hey, G-Rap, man, if you listening, bro, you heard it on Hard Rap, man. Your brother, man. You know what I mean? It's chop up time. And we definitely can attest. And, you know what I mean? I definitely understand what you mean by that. Now, so our next thing that we like to do here on Hard Rap, because it seems like, man, for whatever reason, even with the dealings that you had with individuals, like you mentioned the Jay-Z tour, and niggas like, man, I didn't know that was, what the fuck? You've been able to fly under the radar. I don't know if that was intentional, but the shit that I feel like, bruh, I have went to hip-hop class tonight. You know what I'm saying? I have been in school as number one student. Hearing these stories, man, hearing you talk about these things is fucking nothing less than incredible. So what we like to do here on Hard Rapp Cafe, man, people like to give people flowers, man. We got to give you your motherfucking turntables, bro. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, man, for real, man. You are part of my fucking MC life, like you, and without me even knowing it. You know what I mean? So to be able to sit down here and talk to you and hear this shit, man, means a lot, man. It's an honor, man. I really appreciate that, my brother.
Man, I appreciate that too, bro. And I'm just scratching the surface.
We gotta give you.
I was just gonna tell you, I have so many stories that I'm just scratching the surface. I'm everywhere with the talking and stuff. So
it's real, man. It's needed, man, because in this day and age, man, this hip hop shit is bounced all over the place. You know what I'm saying? Here at Hard Rap, we try to bring it back down to the culture level and just kind of.
They don't want that though. The powers that be don't want that. They made a shift real quick with the Public Enemy, and when things start getting pro-black and positive, nobody was killing each other. We're talking about loving each other. They had to step in and change that up real fast because they don't want that. You know what I'm saying? Why would you want that, right?
And we know that, so it's definitely, we got to catch a couple bodies along the way, but that's cool. We can play them games too, you know what I'm saying? But it's a balancement, you know what I mean? So brothers like yourself, man, to be able to tap in with you, and who knows who might hear this, you know what I'm saying? These youngest, man, you date back to where this shit sparked that, man, you know what I'm saying? These eras and these stories, man, and it's just incredible, man. You know what I mean? For me to sit here and listen. And then my brother, he's a fucking encyclopedia on this hip hop shit. You know what I'm saying? So
and it's crazy because we done been in around a lot of the same circles and know a lot of the same people. You feel me?
Yes.
That was crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like that tour, that Main Source. That was a classic tour with Breaking Atoms with UMCs and Jazz. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't even Jazz-O back then. He was just a Jazz back then.
Exactly. Jazz would travel with us a lot with Jay-Z.
And Chad Elliott, he had the EP called The Groove, you know what I'm saying? Which Large Professor did a track up there called Hypocrites. And Chad Elliott did some stuff up there as well, produced some tracks for Jazz-O as well. That's why I thought you might have known him as well. But we done been around the same circles around the same time. I was just a young kid. I was a teenager, you feel me? Young, you know what I'm saying? Just absorbing this hip-hop culture, you know what I'm saying? But we definitely got to get you back up on the channel, because I know, like you said, you only scratching the surface. You like the internet. You like Syria hip hop. You feel me?
Yeah, that's real shit, bro. And I was fortunate enough to record with Chad, man. So I want to give a shout out to Chad Elliott, man. But Dr. Butcher, man. Dr. Butcher, man, here on Hard Rapp Cafe, man. It's been a pleasure, brother.
Likewise,
you know what I mean?
Man. I really appreciate y'all. And Jay Swift, man. Let's give kudos to Swift.
Oh, definitely, man. Look, Swift got his turntables last week. Hey, me and the God, we gotta go. We gotta hit the goddamn music store, bro. We got some turntables to get. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, turntables and a mic and microphone.
And microphones. You know what I'm saying? For real, man. But yeah, man. Listen, it's been a pleasure, man. And we, Dr. Butcher, man, Hard Rapp Cafe. Until next time, man, thank y'all for tapping in with us. You know what I'm saying? Great interview, bro. Appreciate you for the information, and we'll circle back, man.
History has been made. History has been made.
Yeah, I appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir, man. Until next time, bro. We out.